by nature, explorers. The same curiosity that sends us to the stars at the speed of thought urges us to go there in reality. And whenever we make a great new leap, we elevate humanity, bring people and nations together, usher in new discoveries and new technologies. So remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet.
Right, welcome to Tuesday. Now, Tuesday comes from an Old English language after Til or Tyr, so it's Tiw or Tyr, who was a one-handed Norse god of dueling, which equated to the Roman god of war Mars once they came over. So it's come from sort of the Norse sort of god of dueling with one hand, makes sense, and is now the god of war Mars. Now, where's a picture of him? Looking very nice. They're always nude for some reason, I don't know why, but all Greek and Roman things, always naked, all the statues. So what can you do about that? That's our ancestors for you. Now, as our ancestors stood there at night and looked up at the sky, they could see this red sort of blob up there in the sky, and they called them wandering stars, the planets, back in the day, because they didn't kind of move in the same way the stars did. So, and they didn't know they were planets because they didn't have telescopes or spaceships to go and visit and have a look. So they just called them wandering stars, and they named them after all the gods because they believed that maybe they were the gods up there looking after the heavens and things like that. So because they looked up and saw Mars as a red blob in the sky, they believed it looked like blood. So that's why they associated it with the Roman god of war Mars. Now, luckily for us, being the most explored planet in our solar system, we found that it's not actually made of blood, but instead it's a cold, rocky planet covered in dust. Doesn't sound very exciting, but the dust that's covering the planet has iron in it, and this iron has oxidized, therefore creating rust. So it makes our outermost rocky planet look red. So yeah, it's not as exciting as maybe blood or a god of war or stuff like that. It's still quite cool in chemistry, really. And you think about it, if next time you go to clean your bike or something like that, or see a rusty nail, just think that's what makes Mars red. It's the dust, all those bits of particles all in the dust there, all the rust that make the planet look red. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, Mars is about 141.6 million miles from the Sun on average, because it does move in and out in orbit. None of the orbits of the planets go in a perfect circle, so they do sometimes get closer to the Sun slightly and move further away. So it's around the average. It's about half planet Earth size, so not really that big a planet, half our planet. It's quite small really, and it's a dry, barren, cold, inhospitable kind of place, being on average about minus 63 degrees Celsius. So if we do go and visit there one day, make sure we wear a coat because it's going to be cold. Despite this, we still have visited it with a host of probes, spaceships, landed rovers on the planet, all in search of knowledge, water, possible life, even though its atmosphere is mainly carbon dioxide, which we know we can't breathe. Might be able to convert it somehow, who knows in the future what we can do. Plants manage it, so why not get some plants there and grow them if we can. And it might be because Mars has some pretty amazing features, and it's stretched across its landscape. One of them is this huge canyon, and it's more than 2,500 miles long, 120 miles wide, and up to 4.5 miles deep at places. So it's absolutely huge, and it's one of the biggest canyons of the solar system. You can see it in the picture here, and it's surpassed in length only by the rift valleys of Earth. So absolutely ginormous, and as you can see it from space in this picture. It looks really cool. Now, it also boasts the largest dormant volcano, Mount Olympus, It's around about 388 miles in diameter and 16 miles high. So it is actually possible to see it in images from larger telescopes from Earth. So we can actually see this humongous volcano. It's now dormant, luckily. You'll also be able to see that there's actually another 3 smaller ones, almost in a line. And I think they say that they're all actually linked up by like lava tubes and tunnels and stuff, and they're all actually part of the same thing. So I've not myself, looking for a telescope, actually seen this myself or the canyon. I have seen the ice caps either end, so the polar caps, and the darker and lighter shades from the different types of terrain on Mars. So one day I'm hoping maybe we'll get a nice clear spell and you might actually be able to see the mountain. I'll have to look it up and find out if you can actually see it. But you can through photography apparently. So if anyone's got cameras, anyone's a good astrophotographer, go for it. Go out in your gardens, go and have a look, see if you can do it. Well, Mars is quite hard to see, so we have to make sure we're very close in orbit. So when we actually go really close in orbit, which happens maybe every couple of years, maybe something like that, we kind of get around and catch up with Mars. You'll be able to take some good pictures of it and get a really good view. Although when this happened for me and we were closest in orbit to Mars, we were going to be for about 12 years, I think it was, something like that. It was like, wow, this is going to be crazy views. I was going to do a little bit of astrophotography as well, so I borrowed my friend's CCD camera, and it was blurry because there was a dust storm that covered half the planet. So at the closest point that we could see Mars for 12 years, it decided to have a dust storm all over the planet. So it was really difficult for me to actually see or make out any features at all. Luckily, the dust storm did disappear after about a week or two. So I was able to actually see some bits on it, like the ice caps and the darker things. But I didn't get to see the volcano or the canyon or anything like that. Now, there are bright areas where the fine dust covers the sort of surface. And there are dark areas, which is where the wind has kind of swept clean the dust, leaving behind a lag of dark rocky material. So that's why sometimes in pictures or when you see it on the internet and things like that, you can see the darker and lighter colours of the actual surface of Mars. So as I said, although the dust storms can cover half the planet, these dust storms will probably blow the fine dust away from the darker areas so you can see the dark areas, but then cover other areas with the fine dust, making it probably the slightly redder, lighter areas. Now you may also be able to see its seasonal ice caps. As I said before, I've seen it once or twice at the north and the south poles of the planet. And as I said, they are seasonal, so they do kind of like Earth's ones. They shrink and get bigger as the seasons of Mars go. And also Mars has 2 orbiting bodies. So it has 2 moons. And they're known as Deimos and Phobos, or Phobos and Deimos. These are quite small. So they're small, cratered, sort of irregular shaped moons. So they're not like our moon. They're not a perfect round sphere. They kind of almost just look like an asteroid that's been caught up. And they actually are thought to be captured asteroids. And now Phobos orbits the planet in about 7 hours, 39 minutes. And Deimos is slower, at around about 18 hours. I've heard it is possible to possibly see 1 or 2 for a telescope. It's probably a bigger telescope. So maybe like a 10-inch Dobby or something like that. But why not have a go? Have a go. You never know. You might be able to see it. Now, Phobos itself is actually getting closer to Mars each year. Only about 2 centimetres. And it is predicted that within 50 million years, maybe 30, 50 million years, sometime around then, it's actually going to either collide with the planet or break up into a planetary ring. So it's going to get all broken up and go all around the planet, like almost like a little mini ring, maybe like Saturn's. Will it be reflective enough for us to see? Who knows? I mean, 30, 50 million years. None of us here are probably going to be there to see it. But we never know. Our ancestors might, or they might even be there to see it happen. Mars through a telescope, quite difficult to see any detail, as I said, unless you're in the perfect orbit and you've got some good atmospheric conditions going on. But it is possible. I've seen it. I know lots of other people have seen it. They've taken some fantastic pictures all over. In fact, I've got a couple here that I can show you that we've got on off our Facebook group. So you can see the sort of pictures you can get and the sort of views. They will be small. You can see the different details and the colours. Just sitting in your garden, looking up at the sky, you will easily be able to make out this sort of red blob that's Mars floating up amongst the stars. And know that that's the red planet covered in the dust and the rust that also covers your bike or your car. So pop out and have a look. Clear skies, and just remember, there's a billion worlds in your back garden.